Well, good evening, everybody. Certainly glad to see a good showing, and despite the weather, I don't know what to say now with all the white stuff on the ground, but it looks like it didn't hinder anybody from coming out tonight. My name is Brent Bellock, and I'm on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce for the RM of Springfield. Certainly I'd like to welcome you tonight and thank you for joining us tonight for the Springfield Chamber hosted pre-election candidates for forums featuring candidates from Ward 3 and 4. The Springfield Chamber of Commerce is made up of people like myself who live, work, and play in the RM of Springfield, and ours is not an exclusive view of business, but rather that of a whole community. Our membership care deeply about building a healthy, well-rounded community and giving back to the community through our activities and our businesses. The Chamber took the initiative with the forums because we feel it's important that the voting public, which is you folks, have a direct and unbiased chance to evaluate the candidates based on their responses to a uniform set of questions. What you'll see tonight, and Linton will explain the rules of engagement in terms of how the audience is going to participate in this today, but we put out a set of 12 questions. I think we sent them to all the candidates on Saturday or Sunday night. We gave everybody the equal amount of time to look at the questions, develop their answers. Linton Sellen, who I'll introduce shortly, he was the unbiased moderator and screener of these questions. And we did that on purpose because certainly on the Chamber of Commerce, we're all business people. We want to grow and develop businesses. But in no way did we want the questions to be influenced by ourselves. So we engaged a very independent third person to this extent that I think Linton has chased every candidate off his yard. Not because he doesn't like you, because he wants to maintain his impartiality through the process. And Linton is also a resident of there in Springfield. So we thought it was very important to do that. And at the end of that, the audience will have the chance to get some questions. Now, Karen Lalonde will be sitting in the back, that if you have any questions that you want to formulate, there will be some pieces of paper circulating that you can write your questions down. They'll go to Karen in the back, and then Linton will audit them to make sure it's nothing personal. It's not about your yard getting cleaned or your ditch getting cleaned, your culvert not working. It's more about the global process in the RM. So we want to keep this really proactive and give the candidates a chance to respond to those questions. So we'd like to thank our community partners for the role in bringing the forums to this community alongside the Chamber. There's been a lot of volunteer work for a lot of people, a lot of nights putting this together, but certainly the groups that have participated with us, the Age-Friendly Committee, the Cooks Creek Expansion Committee, the Springfield Agricultural Group, Springfield Democratic Development, the Springfield Women's Institute, and the Vision 2020. So we'd like to thank all these organizations for participating with us, because without that we wouldn't have had the word to get out and wouldn't have had the funds and everything to put the venues on. It all costs money and takes time. So I'd like to thank all the candidates for participation in this. Certainly you're doing a job that I certainly wouldn't volunteer to do, and we take our hats off you. Number one, taking the personal time, but number two, also taking the leadership journey to be willing to step up and represent your constituents. So thank you for that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for tonight's forum. Mr. Linton Sellen is a longtime Springfield resident and certainly has a interesting perspective on things. We butt horns every now and then, but it's all in a good way, right, Linton? And Linton was we had a meeting with Linton earlier because we wanted to make sure everything was going our way. And Linton told me tonight, I didn't ask to be participating in this. You guys asked me, because when we were talking with them on Friday night, we had a meeting at the Ag Center there in Springfield. We want to make sure all these questions are put together and fair. And then one of our board members goes, Linton, I don't even know if I can trust you. And Linton was ready to say to him, then you shouldn't ask me to participate in this. But anyways, thank you very much, Linton, for stepping up and volunteering your time as well. 4 evenings, I think, this week and next. But we think it's important. This is a democratic process at its best. We've created a forum for you to come out and evaluate the candidates, and then after the voting public makes their decision, it's their job to represent the RM. So, Linton, I'll now introduce and pass everything over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. This is our second of 4 forums for Ward 3 and 4. Do I have it right now, I think? Okay, good. Ward 3 is at the table nearest to me. Ward 4 is at the far table. The purpose of this evening is to give the candidates an opportunity to speak to issues relative to the RM and the governance of the RM. If you're at the other forum, you've already heard me say this, but I'll say it again. The purpose of the evening is not to have an open forum for people in the audience to express their opinions. I'm sorry, this wasn't the purpose of the forum, so if you came here to get your opinion out in public, you're at the wrong forum. This is for the candidates to give their views. And therefore what we ask is that the audience will refrain from expressing their views in any way, including applause, cheering, don't do it. Moaning, groaning, eyeball rolling, forehead slaps, all banned. No palms up, sorry. And I told the story last time that the first time we did the forum last election, there's a guy in Cooks Creek when I said all this said, then I might as well go home. And I said, yes, sir, you might as well, because we'll ask you to leave if you do that. Because this forum is intended to give you an opportunity to hear them uninterrupted saying what they think about various questions and policies relative to RM governance. And if you want your opinion shared next election, all you got to do is get your name on the ballot and you can come up here and share your opinion. You don't get to share it here tonight. So we're going to ask you in respectful silence to let them talk for the entire session of question and answer. And at the end, we'll thank them all in one round of applause, just like introducing the head table at the wedding. We're going to save it all to the end, and then we'll thank them all together. Okay? Well, at the head table, well, I'm the NC, they're the head table. They're going to answer 12 questions, which have been given to them, and they've had an opportunity to prepare for. If you don't like the 12 questions, you can blame me, not the Chamber of Commerce, because I insisted that they could not discuss it with me, which questions I picked or didn't pick, and they accepted that. Those were my terms. And so I screened through 20 pages of questions, took the most common topics and phrased them as neutrally as I could so that they can speak on the issues. We will also ask for questions from the audience, but those questions from the audience will come in written form. You're not going to get to stand up and speak, sorry, it's not your evening. And I get to read it, and I'm going to paraphrase it. So if you write down how come my culvert was wrecked by the stupid RM guy running the backhoe, I'm sorry. I'm going to say please comment on infrastructure such as ditch clearing and safety precautions, deal with it. That's what the question is going to get rephrased to. So anything argumentative or any statements of facts in your questions will be removed, and it'll be boiled down to a simple question of policy for them to answer. I'll give you a quick briefing on what's going to be talked about, because if you're thinking about writing down a question, which you can do, you might as well know that we're going to cover these topics. Here's the quick 12 topics. Your qualifications and motivation, your top 3 priorities, fiscal management, the development plan, economic development, commercial industrial needs versus residential needs, agricultural concerns versus residential concerns, infrastructure, including roads and drainage, water supply and water security, ward boundaries and number of councillors, community and public involvement in council meetings and council decision-making, and joint ventures or shared service agreements with other governments or private organizations. Those are the topics I chose from all the questions that came in. If you think there's something missing, write down another topic and we'll get to it after we get to those 12. One more thing you should know, the way the process is working is they each have 3 minutes, and I've actually found an app. There's an app for everything. I found an app which actually randomizes the order. So I got the 4 names in the app, and I'm going to press the little button, and every time I press the button, it'll give me a random list of these 4 candidates. Now, they might end up going first twice in a row, but that's random, okay? It's luck of the draw. So I'll tap it right now and just tell you what's going to happen on the intro. There it is. It's going to go Valerie, Rick, Ann, and Les. That's the Valerie, Rick, Ann, Les. That's the order on the intro. And every time I ask a question, I'm going to tap that. It's going to give me a random list. We're doing our best to ensure there's a level playing field and each candidate doesn't follow the same other candidate or doesn't have to answer a question first or last. And whether you get first or last is just total luck of the draw. So that's what we're doing. Any questions? Yes, sir.
You said Valerie, Rick, and Les. What about Ann?
Valerie, Rick, and Les.
Okay.
Valerie, Rick, Ann. That is your name, is Ann, is it not? Yeah. Valerie, Rick, Ann. Valerie, Rick, Ann, and Les. Is that better? Sorry. That's the deal. Any other questions? That's just the first question. And the first question is then, please introduce yourself, and during your introduction, please talk about what motivated you to run for council, what you think qualifies you for a position on council, and what your vision is for the RM. So introduce yourself and speak to your motivation, qualifications, and vision.
Hello, hi everyone. So my name's Valerie Rolke. I have lived in Enola for 24 years. I've raised a daughter right from day one that we were here, dragged her to every community club meeting that you could imagine and kept her involved in everything we could do. I lived in the town just across the street on Weiser Crescent for 17 of those years, which made it very convenient for me to come here daily and be involved and truly see the benefit of being community involved. And now we've moved just a mile out of town, all the way down on Corbett, so we're at corner of Corbett Road and 12, and we've been there about 6 years. So that's a little bit about me. My desire and my motivation to run for council. My desire is to make a positive change, has made me run for council. The concern from a municipality showing no advancement and direction to a financially sound future, noticing that services and resources are not increasing within the municipality but still growing in residences, and listening to the concerns from fellow citizens that they are seeing a stagnant governing body that is not moving forward economically or financially has attracted me to run. Seeing no business development in rural Springfield confuses me, and I feel that there has to be a way to motivate business and industrial development to bring in resources that would only benefit us all. What qualifies me to run to be your councillor is that I have lived in Springfield for 24 years. I have grown up on a farm and have at least some knowledge of agriculture and the plight of the small farmer. That I have worked in an organization that promoted professional advancement, education, and basic human respect. I have also involved myself readily and directly with my community by volunteering to sit on a community club board and make changes to improve a facility, which in turn invested community involvement, community pride, and community interaction. I believe in Springfield and I love our Enola. I care. Whew. Am I talking like an auctioneer? Feels like I am. I care about what our future is and what it will bring for our children. We are the oldest municipality in Manitoba, and we are falling behind in economic development. We should be paving the way when it comes to housing, small business development, recreation, and providing basic resources to our citizens. Instead, we have fallen behind and we are viewed as old and stale and stuck. My vision for Springfield is a community that is ever advancing forward with services for our citizens. That Springfield grows together as one entity, not a bunch of independent pods trying to fight for what they think is right. We are in a perfect geographical location for some incredible growth. We are very close to a major city, which is indicating that they are running out of land to build on, a city that is becoming overrun and overwhelmed. Springfield can expect much more growth in the near future, whether we approve or not. We need to get ahead of this movement and prepare for what's to come. We need to embrace our future and prepare so that we will only benefit in the long run.
Yeah, the first question introduction, they were given 4 minutes. That's the agreement. So, Rick, what motivates you? What qualifies you? What's your vision? And please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Linton, and good evening, fellow candidates, and welcome to everybody here. It's interesting kind of a night to be out, and your time to look at the candidates and hear what they have to say is much appreciated. My name is Rick Wilson. I've lived in the RM for some 40 years, just off a hillside on Vernon Road. And I guess what motivated me to run? Well, when I first ran 4 years ago, I felt I had something to offer. First of all, my 30-year career in planning and public consultation, my decades of involvement with community groups on RM issues like the development plan, water quality, drainage and road maintenance, recreation and active living. I saw the needs to make the needs of our unique community known at the council table. And I wanted to employ the experience of residents in the process of running the RM. And I wanted to reinvigorate the sense of community that the RM seemed to be losing. My vision for the RM is for a sustainable, resilient, and cooperative community, a community of communities that respects and values each other for their unique contributions, and where fairness, knowledge of, and transparency in governance is central. As a councillor, I have been part of achieving the first steps of this process. I have advocated for and seen residents included on several RM committees. I have been one of those behind the significant increase in public consultation in the RM. I have helped reduce costs, improve service, and increase common understanding. I am running again in order to employ the lessons I have learned over the past 4 years to realize these objectives and make the RM a better place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne, please introduce yourself and speak to your motivation, your qualifications, and your vision.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank all the residents coming out here on such a snowy afternoon/evening, as well as I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting and putting on such an event, and all the other community supporters. A little bit about myself. I'm going to go back to the 1980s when I graduated from the University of Manitoba with a Bachelor of Arts degree with a major in political science. I also believe that continuing education is important. So with my career with the RCMP for 25 years as a police officer, I successfully completed my conflict resolution certificate in leadership management. The 25 years of the RCMP has taken me across the country on special projects, as well as my first posting being out in Newfoundland, and I came back to Manitoba. Throughout my career at the RCMP, I worked in detachment, so I'm very familiar with the needs of a variety of rural services, as well as in plainclothes. With plainclothes and detachment work, we learn about teamwork, collaboration, and working with other agencies to get to the common goal successfully. My husband, Mark, of 16 years, I hope I have that right because he is in the audience, moved here in 2006. I was posted to the Oakbank Beausejour detachment at that same time. We built a home, built a workshop, and after my retirement in 2012, we decided we've so much enjoyed this community, we decided to stay. Since retirement, I've done contract work with Red River Group, who does home appraisals, Department of Agriculture with the province of Manitoba, and I had a part-time job, Wildlife Haven Rehabilitation Center, to develop and initiate a volunteer management program. With that, I also obtained my volunteer management certification. Volunteering in a community, I was always raised that this is very important to give back to the community. You have to be part of the community to care. And I do care about the municipality of Springfield. I was on the Springfield Police Board. I am an active volunteer with the Services to Seniors, Victoria Lifeline. I'm a committee member of the Age Friendly Committee. I volunteer annually at the flu clinic here in Enola. And I'm presently on the board of directors for a local charity. I understand governance. A council has to govern the municipality. I have the time and commitment to be a councillor. I understand the challenges and the positive aspects of this community because I live here. I have a hobby farm with my husband. We share the workload. I have an insight of the areas to be improved and those that need to be sustained. Those ones that are working, we need to keep them. My experience with the RCMP as a police officer, with teamwork, resolving issues and problems, finding a common ground to move forward, will all help me being a strong leader in this community as a councillor. I have developed programs, policies, and procedures with the RCMP and with my other work since retiring. I understand governance. I understand legislation, bylaws, policies, procedures. With being an RCMP officer, you also gain communication skills. You have to be able to talk to a child and an adult. I foresee Springfield to be a vibrant and healthy community. Residents should stay in the community to work, play, and live, and be with their families.
Thank you. Les, please introduce yourself and speak to your motivation, qualifications, and vision for the area.
Hi, folks. My name is Les Tripp. I've been living in Ward 3 in Springfield Municipality for 18 years. I live on Saplin Road, just about right in the center of Ward 3. I live with my wife of 31 years, 2 dogs and a cat, and I'll speak more to the career that I've had as I go through. So first of all, when I was considering running for council, I asked my wife's opinion. We've been married for 31 years, as I said, and she knows me better than anyone else. She said, and I quote, "That's a fantastic idea. You would be really good at it, and you could really do good things for our community." My experience has been that she is most often right with her opinions. I am new to politics. I believe representing the public is a great responsibility, one that requires full-time commitment, something I have not been able to give until now. My motivation comes from knowing I could use my leadership skills to make the RM of Springfield the best place to live in Manitoba. It is common knowledge that the current council has struggled with getting things done, lots of deadlock in the meetings. I intend to change that. Let's work together and accomplish great things. My vision is a fully functioning council dedicated to serving all the constituents of Springfield. I am uniquely qualified for a position on council. My belief is to be a good councillor, you must have exceptional leadership skills. My background as a medevac pilot gave me the opportunity to hone my leadership skills. Sound decision-making ability while considering various competing priorities is, in my opinion, the hallmark of a good councillor. As a medevac pilot in the Arctic, my decisions carried great impact. The safety of the crew and the urgent need to get a critically ill patient to a hospital were all equally important. The needs of the doctor and the nurses in the back and what they had to say about the patient had to be considered. But also, the safety of the crew had to be considered. What's the runway like? How much fuel do we need? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we had to compromise all the time. It was a necessity. If we didn't, people would have died. The ability to make the right decision at the right time is one of my greatest strengths. I grew up in rural Manitoba on a farm with horses and other livestock. My love of horses took me on a grand adventure. I lived a country western song, a trail ride adventure from Ninga, Manitoba to Togo, Saskatchewan, 230 miles across streams and rivers, true cowboy style, with very few amenities. My brothers, my pop, 7 horses, and my 3-legged dog did this journey in 8 days. My reason for telling you this story is so you know I understand the importance of teamwork in getting great things accomplished. My volunteer experience, involvement in the community ranges from leadership roles to working shoulder to shoulder with other volunteers. I intuitively know when to lead, when to follow, and when to get out of the way. At least that's what my wife tells me. Some of the organizations I have supported with my time are Civil Air Search and Rescue, Literacy Nunavut, St. John's Ambulance Dog Therapy Program, World Partnership Walk, Lions Walk for Guide Dogs, Invasive Plant Council of Manitoba, Springfield Share-a-thon, and Cooks Creek Raising the Roof Day. I'm sure I saw you at some of those events.
Thank you. Next question. The sequence will be Anne, Rick, Valerie, Les. And the question is, what do you see as the top 3 priorities for council? Anne Wojcik.
Thank you. What I see as the top 3 priorities, first and foremost, is economic development. We need to bring business in. We need to retain the businesses that we have present in the municipality. Now, I know some of you may say, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? I don't want some stinky business next to me. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about responsible economic development. Bringing business in would bring tax revenue into the municipality, stabilizing our residential taxes. When I went door to door, and I've gone door to door to every resident so far in Ward 4, and I'm doing my second round now, is that one of the common constant complaints is taxes, taxes, taxes. With death and taxes, that's life. However, we have to be responsible as a council to stabilize the taxes. Bringing in business will help do that. Economic development also provides employment for all, especially the youth. Youth are the people coming up into society. We need to support them, give them the skill set, give them the experience of jobs. If workers are working within the municipality, there's going to be less commuting time than going to different places such as the city of Winnipeg, the city of Steinbach. Keeping you close to home would cut your costs down. Again, money in your own pocket. Another priority is healthy communities. Volunteering with the senior groups in Springfield, one consistent concern is affordable housing. They don't want to move to the city, they want to stay close to their families. As a council, we should be looking at affordable housing for seniors. What that looks like, there's many options. As well as healthy communities, recreation. Most of us think about sports when we first think about recreation. I was athletic growing up. I was in the equestrian competitive community. That's the first thing I think of. But there's other things besides recreation. There's clubs like Guides, 4-H, scouting groups, arts and culture, painting, Ukrainian dancing. We need to provide choices and other recreation for all citizens of the municipality. Building and supporting a wide variety of recreation activities for seniors, youth, and families in the municipality. And the last thing is collaboration, teamwork. The council needs to find a common goal and work together. With my experience, especially with the RCMP, I know I can do that and be a part of a strong leading team. We can use resources in the business community and resources within the municipality, citizens to do that, to promote positive growth for the Springfield.
Thank you. Rick, what do you see as the top 3 priorities for council?
Thanks, Lyndon. Well, after working on council for the last 4 years, actually more than full time, actually, and participating on 23 odd RM boards and committees that I was appointed to, out of roughly 40 that the RM has in order to address and keep things running. I've got 3. Number 1 is fiscal prudence. Number 1. To me, this means keeping RM annual budgets at or below the rate of inflation. Finding ways of making taxes more fair. Economizing RM operations wherever and whenever possible. And a targeted program to attract additional commercial and industrial development to appropriate locations in the RM, as we have identified in our development plan. I have actively supported and voted for such initiatives and have been central to attracting hundreds of thousands of dollars of corporate investment into research on how to more cost-effectively improve drainage in RM, for one example. Second priority, implementing and following an asset management maintenance program. I am a strong supporter of this in order that residents can see value for their tax dollars, so the RM is not hit with massive tax increases to pay for rebuilding facilities because reserves were spent or not created. And I've been an active member on the RM's asset management implementation team. Third priority, improving our quality of living through actions such as maintaining groundwater purity, improving active living opportunities, and publicizing and enforcing RM bylaws that emphasize good neighbor behavior. I have led the development of the initial step in maintaining water quality, which is a groundwater vulnerability and capability study. I have participated in several bylaw creation and upgrading initiatives that follow the good neighbor behavior model. I have led the establishment of a Trans-Canada Trail extension into Springfield. I have supported the concept and development of the Master Recreation Plan with its emphasis on public participation and fact-based enhanced revenue streams for community facilities. And I have supported the expansion of the Cooks Creek Community Center, the Cooks Creek Headers Museum, the Immaculate Conception Heritage Site, and the Hazelwood Sports Complex, both personally and at the council table. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie, what do you see as the top 3 priorities for council?
Additional housing, apartments for seniors, and rental units for young adults. More recreation options for the entire municipality, along with green spaces and walking trails and more business development. Seniors have nowhere to go. There are next to no transitional housing options for individuals as they age in Springfield. Thankfully, we have seen some advancement in this area, but by no means is it enough. The waiting lists are very long. Secondary suites, additional seniors apartments, and less stringent rules for separation of land use needs to be addressed. Council and administration need to approve land use for buildings to be constructed and to attract builders and contractors into the area to achieve multiple options for our citizens. They need to open their scope of understanding and the community to reach each person individually to improve living conditions for all. More apartment construction is necessary for our young and mature adults to have the option to stay in Springfield. Currently, every child has to leave the RM to go to school or to work. Housing options are necessary for everyone and needs to be addressed through various options, whether through assisted, cooperative, or independent living. Springfield needs a center, a recreation center that can offer a venue for large events and a location that is multi-use and multi-purpose. Many citizens understand that it is imperative that all individuals of all ages have a facility that welcomes them with programs and keeps them involved in the community, socially active with others, and promotes community strength. Everyone needs something to do. Life is stressful, busy, hectic, and overwhelming. A rec center where you can bring an entire family to each have something to do to relieve stress, meet friends, make new acquaintances, or just spend some quality time reflects a municipality that cares. Walking tracks, exercise equipment, programs involving seniors, programs for children, promoting teamwork, friendship, and community stewardship are imperative. It keeps kids off the streets, out of the basements, and gives them a healthier outlook on life. It gives seniors a reason to get up and out and keep active. It brings revenue into an area and provides economic strength to our community. Council needs to get the wheels in motion. They need to set aside land for construction and actively begin to understand that what a positive impact this will make for our entire municipality. They need to support fundraising initiatives, promote applying for grants through government agencies. And business development. Anola needs business. Small community needs business. Council needs to review policy and programs involving current business owners. Some have complained that Springfield makes it so hard for the average small business owner to survive, let alone thrive. We need to review what regulations are currently in place and consider change. We have to make it easier for business to come to into our community, which will attract more and varying types. Access to grants to assist small business or entrepreneurs for startup within the first year is something the RM can do to show true support. Offering incentives for small business goes a long way to encourage and consider growing in Springfield. Streamlining the process would help as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Les, what do you see as the top 3 priorities for council?
First of all, I think the current development plan that is being considered for a second reading is a #1 priority. We need to implement that plan and move on to phase 2. We need to create and implement a better tax model. And when I go door to door, I'm hearing probably more than any other thing, taxes are too high and they seem like they're being administered unfairly. Of course, I can't promise taxes will be lower. We'd all like that. in the future, but I can commit to make every effort to not raise the taxes, to hold them at that line. And thirdly, realign our spending priorities, find efficiencies. This would address the concerns I'm hearing at the doors about the tax revenue not being used effectively. So those are the three things: the development plan, a better tax model, and using our taxes more efficiently.
Thank you. The sequence for the next question will be Anne, Valerie, Les, Rick. Here's comment on fiscal management and budgetary policy at the RM. What changes, if any, would you make regarding fiscal policy and practices? Any areas where you would increase or decrease spending? Anne.
Thank you. A council needs to plan for the future. It's not now, it's not 2 years from now, it's 5 and 10 years from now. There's projects and there's planning. The projects should be analyzed and accepted with a positive return on investment. And what I mean by that, if I can give you an example, is if Sobeys is selling 2 liters of milk for $5 and the superstore is selling it for $6, you're probably going to go to Sobeys. But if it's going to cost you more to go to Sobeys, if it's going to cost you $3 in gas to get there, is there really a savings? Projects should be done with a bid system and done on time and on budget. Council's job is to oversee that. Council also needs to look in-house as to their own personal spending and their spending in the departments. Need to look at the policy and the bylaws that govern this. Do we need to send 6 members of council to a conference or a meeting when 2 councillors can come back and report to the council? Through my experience, this is done through where I've worked outside the RCMP and in fact within the RCMP. Can the departments manage more efficiently? Are people taking 2 half-ton trucks to go to one call when both of them can jump into one vehicle? I don't know, but the policy and bylaws need to be looked at and possibly changed if it's not written as that now. There needs to be transparency, nothing hidden, and everything open.
Thank you. Valerie, fiscal management and budgetary policy.
After getting the opportunity to see more detailed information on how the RM manages our money, I may be able to answer this question better. However, in the meantime, I would consider checking on reduction of rentals if it would better benefit our municipality to own equipment versus rent. Consider subcontracting services out if it benefits the budget. Many municipalities are considering different options continually. Everyone has heard what the City of Winnipeg has done with contracting out some of its services and what the government is doing with healthcare. Now, I'm not saying that these are the exact methods we would need to employ, but we still have to be able to investigate options to improve our financial bottom line. We could also network with other municipalities to see how they save and the options that they have considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Les, fiscal management and budgetary policy.
First of all, we have to save for long-term expenditures so that we don't have drastic tax increases To me, this is a real reversal from the way things are being done now, as our taxes seem to increase in leaps and bounds. We also have to restore public trust through transparency and thorough review of our current expenditures. Some of the things that I've heard about the expenditures in the Public Works Department scare me. We can find a lot of savings in that area.
Rick, fiscal management and budgetary policy.
Thanks, Lynn. Over the past 4 years, Council has made significant advances in fiscal management, from targeted reserves and the replenishing of reserves that have been depleted over the years previous, efficiencies in operation through fleet maintenance programs, and a wide range of other cost-saving and maximizing of service for dollars initiatives. I have been part of those decisions, and I fully support the cost-saving measures that have been implemented. There are some others, always change that can be done, and I'm an advocate of continuing to look for opportunities to do that. One needed change is to make the RM annual and monthly budget documents more understandable. This would greatly aid in the transparency of all council operations, and I believe would be a big step forward in allowing people to understand fully how their tax dollars are being spent. I fully support this. As well as supporting it, I've advocated for it, and consider if a format more understandable to residents familiar with managing their own expenses has already begun. I would also support a policy of only incurring borrowing costs if major new health and safety initiatives are involved, to keep interest charges at a minimum and maximize RM fiscal resiliency. We have done this over the past 4 years. I have strongly advocated for paying things out of our existing budget rather than borrowing money, so that we save, well, roughly 50% of our costs. I will continue to do so if re-elected. I fully support tendering of RM work and will continue to advocate for more in-depth council review of operational spending and operating policies. As well, RM staff have shown a significant interest and ability to both innovate and to attract grant funds in the interest of reducing expenses. I would like to explore more ways of encouraging staff in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep that mic, Rick, because you're up first for the next question, followed by Anne, then Les, then Valerie, and the question relates to the development plan, the one that is currently before council, second reading, just past second reading, I believe. Are you in favor of it as it stands, or would you make changes? And if so, what changes? And how do you see the implementation process moving forward? Rick.
Thank you. I believe that through our public participation process, listening to residents and responding to their comments, we have come up with a very good plan. I personally would question the applicability of the secondary suite idea, except in fully serviced areas. We already have a temporary additional dwelling designation to address the need to keep families together in the RM. But I see the larger issues of things like commercial and industrial development and needed community and regional direction as benefiting significantly from this plan. Critical to the success for the plan is the rapid completion of the secondary plans for the Oak Bank and the West Pine Ridge areas, and the needed review of the zoning bylaw, and I fully support undertaking those within the first year of the next council's administration.
Thank you. Anne, please comment on the development plan.
Thank you. I have reviewed the development plan. I've been to a public hearings on the plan. I think it's a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that there is a plan now, I believe at the second reading. There was lots of public consultation for the plan, which I was very happy to see. But we must move forward to the secondary plan. We need to work the council needs to work as a cohesive team to reach the second phase. It's about teamwork. We may not always agree, but with my skills and education of conflict resolution, and believe me, through my times of the RCMP going to domestic situations and neighbor issues, of everyone saying black, the other person saying white, I can actually convince them to say gray. I have that skill set, and I have over 25 years of experience to do that. I've also dealt with staffing problems as a supervisor with the RCMP and in the private sector. Again, we have to find common ground and work to that goal, and it's a win-win situation for all. The development plan in whatever stage, whatever plan it is, whether you're planning to cook supper at home, okay, when I'm cooking supper at home, you have to analyze, implement, and review. Analyze the problem, analyze the plan, implement the plan, and review it. And if things aren't working tickety-boo, you need to make adjustments. So yes, the development plan is good, but we do need to move forward as soon as possible with the new council.
Thank you. Les, development plan.
My view of the current development plan is it is a solid plan, well thought out, and it is done well. I know this because I had the opportunity to meet with Dan Doucette, the development officer for the RM of Springfield. We reviewed the plan together, and he pointed out a lot of different things on there that are excellent, excellent. One of the things that I strongly agree with is the development of the secondary suite. It's a really good idea, and we need it here for the housing. The current development plan supports agriculture and increases in business. However, Ward 3 still gets to be the unique area that it is. The changes that are recommended take place in other parts of the municipality. The plan is now with the province, and we should proceed with phase 2. In my opinion, this plan should be adopted as is. There is really no reason to conduct further analysis.
Valerie, the development plan.
Thank you. Well, having attended the last public meeting in Dugald and the open house in Enola, I could see that there were citizens who had issues with the plan. I do understand that you can't please everyone all of the time. However, we do need to set aside someone to review these complaints and address each. When a neighboring municipality has to attend a public meeting to express their concern with a plan because someone didn't take the time to contact or listen to them, I feel that there is a bit of a gap in process. At the next council meeting, admin then advised council to move it forward, even though next to none of the concerns were addressed. So I'm concerned about that as well. I also understand that the previous council had expended quite a lot of money on the previous development plan, but this current council felt a new one needed to be made. But I can assure you that I do not ever feel that we would need to recreate a wheel when one has already been created. There are citizens in attendance who did support the plan and just wanted the plan to be voted through. The frustration on these people's faces made it very clear to me that the current council has taken a little bit too long to achieve a final result. And as long as nothing is set in stone and individuals aren't completely locked out of a process to change something that affects them detrimentally in their livelihood or their quality of life, we do need to move forward. I have not read the entire development plan, but I have heard that it restricts some individuals who own land that is designated agricultural, restricting them from separating the land and splitting it up. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I have spoken to a few landowners who have not been allowed to split willed parcels of their land to their children because the RM won't let them. If they've already been given approval by the province and they're willing to undertake all the costs to develop those parcels of land and abide by all the drainage and culvert regulations and policies and permits and development plans necessary, then it doesn't seem fair to take that away from them. These individuals have received lands from their parents and in some cases their grandparents, and they have lived there literally all their lives, and all they want is some property to build a house and raise a family. There are some families who have been in Springfield for 5 generations. The grandchildren have children of their own, but they have to move to Winnipeg. Because the RM says this land has to be farmed. So even though the land has never been farmed, it's full of rocks and trees, but because it's been deemed agricultural, even though no one in the family would ever do it, they're not allowed. So I would like to review the development plan to get a clearer understanding on this issue in particular and make change if possible. There are not a lot of numbers of property owners lined up outside the office who want to do this or need to, but they should not be punished for having land that can be farmed, possibly, if they choose to or if they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep that mic, Valerie. You're up first for question 5, which is, what would your policies be regarding the role of council in economic development of the RM? And after you, it'll be Les, Rick, and then Ann.
Council's role in our citizens' quality of life can be reflected through supporting, financing, and developing policies that offer stability through a strong and vibrant community. This can be achieved by actively initiating stable funding for a multi-use facility, attracting business development and education, setting aside funds within a capital budget, applying for grants, initiating private donors, and showing the citizens a unified front for development are ways to improve our economy and attract investors. Informing citizens of our improvements and long-term plans allows for everyone to be involved in the process and gives people a sense of pride, which in turn promotes active, positive, healthy living. Current council has a 10-year plan. However, most vibrant municipalities establish a 25-year plan, which offers a guideline, nothing set in stone, but a guideline for where we want to see our citizens and our children's future. It does not mean that it is set in stone, but allows people to think ahead and prepare for upcoming projects and improvements. It forces council, along with the taxpayer, to look ahead to where our children and grandchildren will be going. To educate every citizen and keep them informed truly improves economic development and moves our municipality into the next century, improving our social well-being, economy through business, and agricultural supports. We can keep moving forward and anticipate some positive long-term growth.
Thank you. Les, role of council in economic development.
The Municipal Act does not make it incumbent upon the council to have or support an economic plan. That being said, our largest tax revenue comes from industrial, commercial, and small business. My position is we need to be very proactive about growing our local economy. We do this by attracting and retaining small businesses, large businesses, industry and commercial taxpayers. Buying local should be encouraged. As we all know, the cost of everything just keeps going up. Just to keep the services we have now, we will need to grow our tax base.
Thank you. Rick, economic development.
All right, thanks. The role of council in economic development should be one of, to me, of encouraging and enabling sustainable growth of our commercial and industrial sector in appropriate locations in the community. And appropriate means where it's cost effective and most appropriate from a social and environmental and financial point of view. Residents and their families need the option to work near where they live. This will increase the fiscal resiliency of the RM, certainly the fiscal resiliency of the residents, and help reduce overall tax rates. Council has identified this as a primary need. I have supported this, and I've supported hiring an economic development officer to coordinate development of a targeted marketing strategy and to actively seek out and recruit new members to the RM business community.
Thank you. Ann, economic development.
Thank you. Springfield needs to establish a business-friendly environment to improve the fiscal health and growth of the municipality. Encouraging businesses to come here, move here, establish here, grow here, will also provide employment for our citizens, provides tax dollars, stabilizing our residential taxes. We need responsible commercial and industry businesses. I had the fortunate opportunity when I was going around to the residents in Ward 4 to attend the Springfield Colony. And they're seeing their manufacturing of cabinets, automation, and talking to some of their employees. Their employees were happy. Their employees, some of them, were not from the colony. So you have a manufacturing business providing jobs for all residents of the municipality. These employees who were not from the colony lived elsewhere in the area. They were driving to and from the colony, and some of them used to work at Pallister in Winnipeg. Isn't that exciting? That we can provide that type of security, employment security, and employment in our municipality. We have to develop the resources and partnerships to build such industries. Partners such as the Chamber but at the same time, we have to achieve a balance with residential and business. We have to be responsible on the development. I would love to see more of our residents, especially the youth, living and working in their own community. And I would like the opportunity, if the voters in Ward 4 would allow me to do that, to bring this opportunity reality.
Thank you. Okay, Rick, you're up first for question 6, followed by Anne, Les, and Valerie. Question 6 is, please give your views regarding prioritizing or balancing commercial, industrial development needs versus residential needs and interests. Please comment regarding economy, lifestyle, and relative costs and benefits to the RM, its businesses, and its residents. Rick.
Thanks, Lynn. Well, to me, it's not a question of any versus in this question. The two sectors have many interests in common. Appropriately located commercial and industrial growth is a priority for RM financial resiliency. Now, people being able to work where they live benefits the economy, the environment, and the individual resident financially. Less travel time means more time for personal interests and may mean more dollars spent locally for daily needs, further benefiting the community overall. Increased opportunities for interaction between neighbors at area businesses and shops will also contribute to an increased sense of community, further strengthening the RM social fabric. And the most apparent residential need is for starter accommodation and nearby jobs that make it economically viable for community youth to live in the RM in the early years of their careers. This and all residential development must be provided at a break-even cost to sustain a resilient RM. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne. Industrial development needs and residential needs and interests.
Thank you. Once again, we need responsible commercial development and balancing it with the residential needs. We need consultation from time to time on that. We need communication. People shouldn't be afraid of businesses moving in. We need to be respectful. And once again, the more commercial, the more taxes come in, the residential taxes will stabilize. People will be staying at home or staying in their community to work. My husband, Mark, he used to work in the Polo Park area, and now he works in Transcona area. He commutes, but the difference of commuting from Transcona to the Polo Park area has put money in our pocket, money that we spend locally, usually on our dogs, cats, ducks, geese, sheep. Okay, and the donkey. Anyway. And I know that the residents and the commercial communities can work together and live together.
Thank you. Les. Commercial, industrial versus residential needs.
I believe we must have a balance between commercial and industrial development and residential. We need to increase our attention to our commercial needs while continuing to maintain basic residential services. We have a wonderful lifestyle here in our little piece of paradise. One of the areas that comes to mind is the public library. I feel a more hands-on approach by council would greatly enhance its function and improve the satisfaction of its users and volunteers. Although a great job is being done by our municipal police force, I will support more funding go to their budget to allow them to put more boots on the street so our crime is reduced and controlled.
Valerie, commercial and industrial development versus residential needs.
A priority in this regard would be to make sure that commercial industrial business does not interfere with residential growth. There is a concern that the two do not mix, and that is how and why zoning protects this from happening on a regular basis. Increasing zoning areas and places where these within safe zones is imperative. Commercial and industrial business brings revenue into a community, can offer employment and stabilize a municipality. We need to support advancement and improve our methods in attracting various types of industry into our community throughout the municipality. When more business establishes within a community, there is more support of residential needs, and in many instances actually assist in funding big projects and strengthen the community. When more funding for recreation, walking parks, playgrounds are some things that have been supported by commercial and industrial business, which have taken the primary financial load off the RM and the tax base. Acknowledgement of the fact that certain lands have been designated agricultural does interfere with this process and must be reviewed. Whether it is more for residential development or commercial industrial, we have to anticipate the growth and predetermine best case scenarios for additional land use. This is where a 25-year plan comes in very useful.
Thank you. And you will be up next on the next question, followed by Rick, then Les, then Valerie. And the question relates to agricultural versus residential concerns. Please give your views regarding prioritizing or balancing agricultural concerns versus residential concerns. Please address issues such as farming operations running equipment late at night, continuous operation of dryers and fans, early morning aerial applications, taxes paid versus benefit received, and education tax on farmland.
Okay, thank you. With my experience with working contract for the Department of Agriculture and various departments, I do have an insight of the challenges that producers have these days. Agricultural producers are the backbone of society. We need producers, organic and non-organic. My husband is a meatitarian. He wants his meat on the table. Producers don't work 9 to 5. They work when the weather allows them to work. Producers I admire producers very much for their time management, their demanding schedules, and trying to not get mad at Mother Nature too bad when, well, like today, there's snow. And by the way, we're hauling hay tomorrow, so if anyone wants to help out, just come down to Austinville to meet you at 302 and 15. Agriculture is very important to this community. We have a very diverse area in the municipality. We have the equestrian community. In the rural areas, we have a lot of agriculture, and we have an urban area. We have to balance this, and we have to have tolerance.
Thank you. Rick, please comment on agricultural versus residential issues.
Thanks, Lynn. Well, Springfield is a rural municipality. The vast majority of the land in the RM is used to produce the food necessary to keep us alive, as well as providing significant economic benefits for the country as a whole. As the zoning and the development plan provides a basic template to minimize the impact of residential on farm and farm on residential uses, I support the maintaining of rural and agricultural practices in our rural and agricultural areas. As far as taxes paid versus benefits received goes, I am a firm advocate of transparency in this area. I've been advocating for a balance to be achieved in this, and I look forward to the full implementation of the asset management process to be able to provide information to all residents on services provided versus taxes paid. As far as education tax on farmland goes, I do not believe either RM or school tax should be based on property assessment. It is what it is, but I do not believe that this is an appropriate or fair system. I will continue to lobby hard for this point of view, and in the interim, which I don't see any end to it, quite frankly, given the situation, the provincial versus municipal governments. I will continue to look for ways of making taxation more fair through ideas like flat fees for services rather than through mill rates on property, and for tax equalizing measures such as differential mill rates.
Thank you. Les, please comment on agricultural and residential issues.
Such an interesting question. When I think that by the year 2050, the world food supply will have to double. We must support and enhance agriculture. We must understand its necessity and tolerate agricultural practices and development. We have to be supportive of agricultural. All of our conversations with the provincial government must be proactive in supporting agriculture in the RM of Springfield. The education tax rate on farmland is set by the provincial government. To me, this makes sense. You can't really expect someone to pay taxes on 2,000 acres. Although I understand the noise can be frustrating, it is something to be tolerated. After all, it's only for a few days of the summer. And really, I've never heard of anyone moving a 2,000-acre farm next to a house.
Thank you. Valerie, agricultural versus residential concerns.
As I understand it, the residents normally do not have issue with farming and the noises it produces. I am only speculating because I have not come upon any complaints regarding this concern. However, with large farming operations, I can see that an individual may have some issues with noise, etc. Most large farming industry has a lot of land and does not have many close neighbors. Most noise comes from the uses of equipment, which is only seasonal, and with technology, equipment is meeting more regulations regarding decibel levels and performance. Unfortunately, a farmer must work when the weather allows, and noise from equipment from planting, cultivating, harvesting can go through time periods that people who only work average jobs may not understand. However, this is a livelihood and only takes place when absolutely necessary. The taxes a farmer pays should go to the improvement of drainage and road maintenance. The taxes a resident pays dependent on where they live also goes to drainage and road maintenance. There is no difference in the needs of both these taxpayers. However, those residents who live in a town or a village will have a lot more services provided for their taxes, but then they pay more taxes. Having spoken to a few farmers while campaigning, the latest tax bill received is literally destroying the small farming industry, and they cannot survive. If a grain crop does not yield extremely well, and they have no other income, how are they to pay? And if there is not enough to pay the taxes, then there's not enough left to survive on. So when the tax bill literally increased by 200% for this gentleman, there is a serious problem and the farmer cannot understand how he is supposed to manage. The only support a farmer can see is a reduction in a tax bill. Then if he asks for support, he is told, well, sell your land. But he can't because it's deemed agricultural and the RM doesn't allow for splitting agricultural land. So this just doesn't make sense. Agricultural land should not have to pay a full percentage of school taxes, and since 60% of the taxes we all pay that are billed are school taxes, I would support a reduction on agricultural land use to reduce the amount of school taxes that is calculated. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, you're up first for the next question, followed by Les, then Valerie, then Anne. It's question 8. Please comment on infrastructure, especially roads and drainage. What would be your policies and approach? How high a priority is it for you? What would be your approach with respect to RM advocacy with the province regarding costs of infrastructure maintenance? Rick.
Thanks, Linton. Roads and drainage are the only two things municipalities are required to provide by law. Quality provision of these basic services are fundamental to RM operation and critical to those of us who live in the rural areas. I have advocated for the identification of what the true costs of maintaining our present road and drainage systems are, of what the measures and costs are of providing drainage retention to 1 to 32 year and 1 to 100 year protection levels, 1 to 32 year being the degree to which Department of Highways designs their facilities, and what the implications of present development, changing transportation, farming technologies, and the possible provincial downloading may and are having on the RM's ability to provide these basic services. I have supported and helped initiate both drainage and transportation overall strategies, RM strategies, in the last 4 years. I will continue to advocate for their completion and their implementation.
Thank you. Les, infrastructure, especially roads and drainage.
This is very high priority for me. After all, we have 570 roads we have to, 570 miles of roads we have to maintain. Our seniors count on us to be able to get their essential services. Schools expect us to have our roads properly maintained and safe so that the kids can get to school. Last but not least, there are commuters. Many of them live in this area and work in Winnipeg, need to make sure that they get to work. We have to work with all the stakeholders and water stewards. By this I mean agricultural community, the Cooks Creek Conservation District, and other municipal governments, as well as our provincial government, in making sure we have the funding to maintain our roads and our drainage system. Council has to understand that the road system and the draining issue are inherently tied together. One of my voters explained to me the impact of not cutting the ditches. He said, when the bulrushes that are not cut hold the snow, which in turn means we have to plow more. When we plow more, that blocks up even more snow, so we have to plow even more. In the spring, the bulrushes don't allow proper drainage, which causes flooding, further impacting our roads and our agriculture. It's really imperative that council listen to frontline staff who deal with roads and drainage on a daily basis and have hands-on expertise. The drainage situation at present is in the process of being computerized, but it is a slow process. There's lots of information that has to be input, and there's also elevations that have to be input and measured. At this time, the drainage is more reactive than proactive. This largely is dictated by budget constraints.
Thank you. Anne, roads and infrastructure, please. Sorry, Valerie, my mistake. Valerie's next.
Roads and drainage are a top priority according to our citizens. I must admit, while I was out there, that's what every second person told me. Road maintenance is the only service that they get for their taxes they pay, and these roads should be in good condition at all times. This is what I have been told by many, many residents that I've spoke to. Where ditches are shallow, reeds have overgrown, heavy rains and groundwater flood, and land is damaged and becomes unusable. It is important for staff to inspect all rural ditches and roads to maintain regularly. This can be achieved by having grader operators and other public works staff recording problem areas and relaying this information to office staff to keep it on record. Providing the resources to maintain good reports may cost slightly in the beginning, but it can become cost effective in the long run. Keeping records of complaints and concerns from residences and feedback is very important to stay on top of resolving problems from drainage. Restricting or limiting development in areas where it would affect land drainage is very important as well. And if it is allowed, appropriate and necessary regulations are placed on the development to allow for correct drainage methods. Roads maintenance may include more consistent training and awareness of new methods to improve road structure. Speaking to the RMs who have gone through similar issues would prove to be beneficial. Companies whose livelihood is based upon finding new and improved methods of using different products to compact road surfaces are things we may need to look into as well. Roads are affected by more traffic due to residential development, large equipment from farms and recreational vehicles. All these factors can affect a road surface, and the RM has to consider updating their methods of improvement. While campaigning, I have spoken to many citizens who also supported the road maintenance and have told me that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the roads as they are. These individuals travel the entire municipality daily, and they have not come upon any serious issues. Others have come from other RMs, and they have said that our roads are some of the best maintained in Manitoba. I feel our public works staff are doing their best and have a lot to be proud of. However, there are a few problem areas that need to be addressed, and greater training seems to be a big issue. I would like to discuss options for increased training methods for grader operators. Even if it does cost more, I feel the results in the long run will be worth it. Advocating to the province through applying through grants and assistance and funding is imperative. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne, roads and infrastructure and drainage, please.
Thank you. Roads and infrastructure is vital, but they're also expensive. We need to continue to lobby to the provincial government to attain funding for that. Now where we live, out just by Austinfeld, we have no ditch. It's great for four-wheeling or doing U-turns because you don't have to worry about ending up in the ditch, but there is no ditch. When I was still with the RCMP, there was a little culvert at the corner of the road that keeps the water off the road. When I was with the RCMP, the Public Works did not clear out that culvert. The snowplow damaged it, wasn't maintained properly. The road washed out. Now my concern when I was with the RCMP that when I was on call, I couldn't go and help whoever needed to be helped. Roads need to be maintained either from snow removal and not washed out to help those in emergency services, volunteer or paid, for those who require home care, and for those to commute regularly to work. We need to keep the community and the employees safe on our roads. Now, one common concern I had when I was going door to door to the Ward 4 was drainage. Drainage is a multi-agency resources. We need to collaborate. We need to work together and systematically solve the problem of drainage. We need community consultation. There's many residents in this ward, particularly, that have been here for 50, 60, 70 years who knows how the water flows in their area, in their community, in their neighborhood. Maybe we should start asking them. And when we ask them, we should put that information towards a drainage plan. Drainage plan, we need to work with other agencies, government and otherwise. But we need a plan. I can only tell you that water does not run uphill. That's all I know. We need to use the resources and partners out there to develop a plan and implement a plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Les, you're up first for the next question, followed by Rick, Ann, and Valerie. The question relates to water, drinking water. Please give your views regarding water supply and security. Please comment on managing risks to the quality and quantity of water in the future, and specifically how you view present or future residential, agricultural, or industrial practices as they relate to water supply and security. Les.
I know everyone here agrees that good water is essential for everyone and everything in life, so naturally, protecting the water is the highest priority for me. I met with Santok Ranawa today. He is the Director of Engineering and Environmental Services. I wanted to understand what were the opportunities, challenges, and concerns he had, and how we utilize our water, what we can do to protect our water in the future. I shared with him my concerns about contamination of shallow wells. Knowing that I don't have expertise in this area, I'm going to be relying heavily on the people who do. My greatest concern is that we protect our water for generations to come. Today I discussed with Santok how Dugald has water supplied from Oak Bank at this time, but 2 wells are being drilled near Dugald to further boost our supply of water. They will also provide backup in the current situation, and in the near future they'll be supplying a pump to run water the other way from Dugald to Oak Bank should it be a necessity.
Thank you. Rick, water supply and security.
Thanks, Lynn. Well, a safe water supply is vital to the health and economic stability of our entire RM. Now, a safe water supply is becoming more and more important for all of us as an RM issue, given the province's scaling down of technical support, their hands-off approach to enforcement, and exemption of some industries from the Act that protects groundwater in Manitoba. Our RM Aquifer study will shortly provide us the starting point from which to begin source water and recharge area protection initiatives, both from an information and a regulation standpoint. 3 of my top priorities will be the identification and implementation of a strategic environmental analysis of our recharge areas, and to identify informational and regulatory needs regarding measures to protect groundwater quality, and to complete cooperative efforts needed to identify compatible source water and recharge area uses and activities to ensure long-term protection of our water resources.
Thank you. Anne, water supply and security, please.
Thank you. Just to reiterate what the other 2 candidates have said, I think we can all agree in this room, water is essential. Safe water is imperative. And yes, we do need to protect it for now and for the future. We need to resource out and ensure the best possible system and ensure monitoring of that system. A well or a treatment plant might be fine now, but we need to keep monitoring it to make sure that the water is getting filtered properly, that it's not getting contaminated, and that we do have safe water for all residents. When we're planning for future development, it must be responsible, and we must be responsible to consider the quality of the water and any development that goes on within the RM, how it may affect the water that we have now and in the future. We need responsible development and continuous monitoring of the water system to protect it for the future.
Thank you. Valerie, water supply and security, please.
As we all say, water is the essential element of life. We're made up of 80% of water or more. Without it, we could not survive. Water safety is imperative to the survival of a municipality. Being vigilant in restricting development on or near town aquifers, rivers, large bodies of waters are primary in maintaining good drinking water for all its residences. Any industrial or commercial development must take place in safe zones, not where it is most convenient. The province has established the Water Resources Administration Act, which outlines regulations that all municipalities must abide by. The RM of Springfield has established groundwater management policies to protect its citizens. It is imperative that all new and current high-risk pollution activities which could affect groundwater be inspected and maintained properly at all times. Contamination is destructive and damaging to many. It does not take much to seep into a water source, whether through bacteria or chemicals. Agricultural development, large livestock farming, and commercial and aggregate businesses all have to be reviewed at all times. Seepage of any kind can never be allowed. Current standards are in place regarding water safety, and these regulations need to be maintained and reviewed at all times. The RM has already been vigilant with keeping water safe by supporting diversion dams, investing in drainage projects, and restricting land use near water aquifers. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, you're up first for the next question, followed by Les, Anne, and Valerie. And it's question 10. What would be your plan with respect to ward boundaries? And how many wards do you see us having? Rick.
Thanks, Lynn. In the last 4 years, I have come to fully appreciate the value of specific representation from the diverse regions of the RM at the council table. It is extremely important that the different needs and views of the very diverse areas of the RM are represented and advocated for. Now, of course, ward boundaries are a major factor in how these areas are defined, and any required changes need to be made respecting both population and the need to represent the different communities involved. I believe this type of change should be incremental in order to minimize disruption of existing communities and to have the best chance of being accepted with a minimum of public concern and community disruption. Okay, so number of wards. I believe that the press has done disservice to the present 5-ward, 1-reef system by suggesting an even number of voting members has resulted in deadlock and inaction. In fact, a 3-3 vote, which has been very rare, results in a defeat for a motion, not a deadlock. And the fact that a council's decision is split is a sign that more discussion is required to make whatever is being discussed a more acceptable solution for the RM overall. I am in favor of retaining the ward system and keeping it at 5. Changing boundaries incrementally to address population increases while always reflecting the need to maintain the diverse voices of our community of communities. I see no need for the extra expense of an additional councillor. Thank you.
Les, please speak to ward distribution and ward numbers.
One of the wonderful things about living in a democracy is that you get to have representation by population. It is important to acknowledge the population growth in Oakbank. We may have to look at how those folks can be proportionally represented. I'm not in favor of additional funds being spent on one more councillor. However, I also understand that there is a cost for not getting things done. The number of tied votes in council speaks to the need for an additional councillor. The salary for the additional councillor will need to be found in the current budget. One of my recommendations would limit the number of councillors going to out-of-province conferences. We need to evaluate the need to physically attend a conference. When possible, web conferences need to be considered. And if necessary, 2 councillors attend instead of the whole gamut and share the information with the others. The savings resulted from these things would account for the additional councillor's salary.
Thank you. Anne, please comment on ward boundary and distribution and the number of wards.
Thank you. The boundaries of the wards need to be fair and representative of the people. The council needs to be more effective, and it needs to address your needs. Having a 3-3 vote shows a stagnant council. It's not progressive. Going back to have the same conversation and discussion over and over again and coming with the same result, well, How many times do you have to do that before the definition of insanity comes about? You need a tiebreaker to be more effective and being more progressive to move this municipality into a vibrant, healthy community that I know it and believe it can be. Having more staff does not mean increasing the cost. We can save costs. Do not have to send the whole council on a conference. 2 people can go and report back. I've already discussed that, and that the RCMP and other agencies and private sectors do that now. Why is this municipality not doing that? Maybe we should be looking at the bylaws and procedures that state that. Maybe there can be a way of transportation costs to be cut. If you're going to a conference, don't fly first class, fly economy. There's the fiscal that is all part of fiscal management. Transparency. So I would propose that having an odd number of councillors is going to have the council being more effective and more effective and progressive for Springfield.
Thank you, Valerie. Ward boundaries and number of councillors.
Fair representatives for all residents of the RM is a basic right. Areas where there is large development involving residences should be able to turn to a representative to communicate their concerns and needs. To burden one individual with double the amount of individuals than another is not right. If after a review of the area and the population demographic shows that an additional ward is necessary, then it should be done. We know that the RM is growing. We know that the majority of growth is in the Oak Bank area. I see nothing wrong with adding another councillor to the RM, even though it would cost the municipality more money. If this means that our fellow citizens get more attention to have their needs heard, then that should be our priority. The obvious benefit to having one more council member is the less likelihood of hung votes on issues. Thank you.
Valerie, you're up first, followed by Ann, Les, and Rick on the next question, which is regarding community and public involvement. The question is, what do you think is the appropriate level of community and public involvement with council, both at council meetings and outside of council meetings? What are the methods by which input should be received and information disseminated? Valerie.
Thank you. I have been attending council meetings since June now, and to have every council meeting open to the public does not seem necessary to me. If council and administration are vigilant in notifying the public with agendas and actively notifying anyone who might be affected personally by a certain topic being discussed, then there would be no need for someone who is not even involved to attend. The need to have access to minutes and discussions which took place made available to the public within a timely manner would allow for public involvement. It would keep them aware of the topics and the actions of council. Offering options to the public through various social media avenues is a necessity. Offering short topics of interest to everyone would give them the knowledge of council's role and admin's duties based upon what is discussed on the agenda. Council deals with a lot of issues that are private and discussions need to take place. When the meeting has the public in attendance, it interrupts the process and delays the meeting. The topic has to be put on hold, it has to wait until the end of the meeting, and then council waits for the gallery to clear, and then they have to review the topic again in private. It seems very tedious. Other times it causes unnecessary confrontation to take place and demoralizes all members within the gallery. When opinions are thrown about in sensitive topic that is being discussed, it takes away from the ability for council to work together as a team to come to a cohesive and fair solution. However, when it comes to variance meetings, public involvement is imperative. Delegations attend and discuss their needs with council. If other members of the public who want to attend these meetings, then they surely can. Improvements to the current website are necessary. It has to be easier to find the information and view what is happening. Facebook has definitely become another way to communicate with the public. It attracts an age group that necessarily would never attend a meeting, however, are still very involved in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne, please comment on community and public involvement.
Thank you. Public consultation is beneficial and provides a better understanding to council members of the public's view and perception. In order for it to get a proper assessment of what the public is thinking, we need to disseminate the information appropriately. Whether it's through technology, social media, website, emails, or even the old-fashioned newspaper called the local clipper. Many seniors don't have access or have an understanding of how social media work or can go around and navigate through a website. So we should be providing the seniors of our community other ways to get the information that they can make an informed opinion and provide that opinion to council. I have also attended council meetings, and I see the need for strong and effective leadership. Rules of order should be in place, which will provide a proper and efficient addressing of the agenda and having an effective working council. The council, remember, is a governing body, which will lead to positive growth in the municipality. With having strong leadership in council, strong effective leadership in council, the council will be able to move forward and provide a positive community in this municipality.
Thank you. Les, you're up next to comment on community and public involvement with council.
It's important to point out that councillors in the Reeve have been elected by the constituents to make decisions. That's the biggest part of the job. That being said, it is really important that the constituents are aware of what's going on in council meetings and the decisions that are being made. I understand currently there is funding for a community communication coordinator. I totally support this role and understand the importance of communication and accurate information dissemination. I have committed to my voters that I will send out personal emails following every single council meeting describing what happened. I also am committing to opening up my calendar once a week for face-to-face meetings with constituents. I also have a Facebook page. Anybody can go there anytime and see what my opinions are. I agree rules of order must be followed and council must be fair.
Rick, please speak to the issue of community and public involvement with council.
Thanks, Linton. I believe the present approach at council meetings to accepting comments from the floor via the consensus of council is working well and provides enhanced opportunity for residents to be heard. I have supported all such requests from the gallery. The level of public involvement during our key development plan, recreation plan, and strategic plan initiatives has been unprecedented, with the development plan consultant saying he had never seen a better, more inclusive, well-attended process. This is great news for the RM. The more involved people are, the more aware they are, the better. Such opportunities to be informed and to meaningfully participate are absolutely critical to our democratic process and are something I would strongly support and look to have enhanced even further. Further improvements are needed. Council has been working to have more time available for public review of the annual budget. I think this is critical and I support that. There needs to be much more timely information provided on council proposed actions and the reasons behind them, so that educated public review can inform and guide RM actions more effectively, and nothing more critical than our budget process every year. A review of what works and what doesn't with communities that have more experience with electronic information and input methods is required, with changes to RM website or electronic media to follow here, and I support that. The RM is already moving to adopt a more direct and efficient means of responding to operational and maintenance incidents through a digital response mechanism as part of that asset management implementation program I mentioned. And the first steps towards an information and notification email program are already available and up on the RM website. I support more public input on needed apps and additions. We need to know what works best for people and respond to that as a council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Anne, you're going to be up first, followed by Valerie, Rick, and Les on the last of the prepared questions. And that's question 12. Please give your opinion of the RM entering into joint ventures or shared service agreements with other jurisdictions in the Winnipeg Capital Region or with private organizations. Anne.
Thank you. Simply put, if it benefits the municipality, why not? Definitely. And I would like to even look into more opportunities as to joint agreements and whatnot. For example, purchasing partnership. If we can get together with the neighboring municipalities and purchase 3 fire trucks. Okay, let me rephrase that. Springfield's not buying 3 fire trucks. But it's kind of that bulk thing if anyone does online shopping, sometimes you buy in bulk, you get a discount. Okay, so if the municipalities get together, have an agreement, let's buy in bulk and fire trucks, and we can get them at a cheaper rate, for example, I'm all for that. We should be looking into that. I also know with agreements, when I was with the RCMP, I have seen it firsthand with our fire departments in the local municipalities working together for people's safety and putting out fires. The police, emergency services do the same thing. They help each other out. It's an agreement. It benefits the residents of the municipality by improving the safety of the community. It runs it more efficiently, and it can be cost-saving measures. So absolutely, I agree.
Thank you. Valerie, please speak to joint ventures or shared service agreements.
I totally support joint ventures. It can only be a win-win situation for both parties. If we can provide more services for our citizens more cost-effectively, then we should consider using these as often as we can. Many municipalities have already been approached by larger cities, which share boundaries and finances have improved and funding benefits achieved. With roads which share boundary division, we need to create shared service agreements with each RM on all 4 sides to assist with maintenance, repair, and snow removal. These joint ventures and shared service agreements will benefit our citizens and enhance what we already have. Having attended the council meeting last night, service agreements have already been drawn up with the RM of Brokenhead to share costs incurred with road maintenance and with the City of Winnipeg for the mosquito larviciding program. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, please speak to joint ventures and shared service agreements.
Thanks, Lynn. I believe there is significant potential here, and several such initiatives are already underway. The RM has been developing formal boundary agreements with adjacent municipalities on shared roads for the past year in order to achieve operational grading, graveling, plowing, and maintenance savings. I certainly support this, and I've been part of the deliberations for 2 of these agreements. The RM's participation in the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region group of municipalities, on which I have served as alternate to the RE for the past 4 years, has also resulted in operational savings through the group purchase of equipment and the joint development of software to reduce fire department administration and regulatory compliance costs. And they're looking to expand this significantly in the coming years. And I firmly support us looking into that, and if it's advantageous to us to to participate, definitely, let's go ahead. The RM also realizes significant savings via group buying and insurance through the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, the AMM. I would look for further opportunities in these and other venues in the upcoming 4 years.
Thank you. Les, joint ventures and shared service agreements.
My opinion on the RM entering into joint ventures is a fantastic idea. Partnerships reduce risk. One example of a mutually beneficial and successful partnership is the RM of Rosser entering into a partnership with Winnipeg on Centerport. Another example of a successful joint partnership venture is the Disraeli Freeway, working with private partnership. It reduces costs for the government and also, as I said, reduces risk. We need to be proactive in seeking out such partnerships when they are of value to us. Our intention is to reduce our spending, and this is a great way to do it. Partnerships are not limited to such big organizations. Partnerships with our local Chamber of Commerce are equally important. The second part of the question spoke to private organizations. I think this is a fantastic idea too. A recent example of this is the grassroots movement to put a community center in Cooks Creek. This was a partnership with the municipal government, volunteers, and other stakeholders. Lots of long hours and hard work are going into this project, and it is very, very successful. This blueprint should be copied whereas there is a need for recreation facilities. I have heard as I go door to door of a desire to have a splash pad in Oak Bank. The way to achieve this is to follow the process set out in Cooks Creek. They have been a shining example of what can be achieved when funds are low and desire and need are great.
Thank you. So that's the 12 questions that were prepared and given to the candidates prior to this evening, and then there's a whole bunch that have come in from the floor. We won't get to all of them. My apologies to those that we don't get to. The first ones to sort of get struck are the ones where I think we've already spoken to the issue, at least generally. So I'm not inclined to sort of raise the issue again if it's already been asked. So I'm looking more at questions that haven't come up during the discussion yet. And here's the first one. It relates to the school division. What do you think, or how do you view the school division's relation, the RM's relationship with the school division, and how we should be interacting with them? And let's press the button and see who's first. That's you, Les, followed by Anne, Rick, and Valerie.
Well, as I said earlier, the province is the one that sets the education tax. But having said that, I think partnering with the school division on anything that we can do just speaks to the last thing I talked about, which is joint partnership. If there are areas that we can improve recreation or help the school district do that, or they can help us set up or use some kind of a facility, why not? It's a great idea.
And the school division.
Thank you. I believe in having a relationship with the school division. As my volunteer work with the age-friendly committee, this is one thing that we support, is having the schools come in and building an age-friendly community. As well as we can look at using the facilities that the school division has and the schools have to increase and add to our recreation facilities. That's it.
Rick, RM relationship with the school division.
Yes, thanks, Linton. Yeah, we would benefit from an increased relationship with the school division. Over the past 4 years, council has been involved in several meetings, and We have actually cooperated with the school division when it came to, for example, building a new school or an expansion to the school in Dugald. We worked with them to transfer land to them, and worked on making sure that that would happen. There was a drainage ditch that was an issue there as well. And anyway, we worked all through that and got that to happen. Our council has also been more proactive in responding to, I guess, some of the issues that were raised at school board meetings. And in fact, both Reeve and myself spoke at a recent school board meeting when they were proposing to add $2.7 million to their budget to build staff lodgings for some of their the in-class staff and the counseling. It's not quite the right word, but the counseling and special needs staff. And we presented the option of doing things more cheaply. Instead of spending $2.7 million, borrowing most of it, we suggested that they take up one of their own trustees' recommendations and instead rent the property, complete with renovations and maintenance, for roughly $60,000 a year. And it turned out that our intervention was successful, and at least one of the trustees changed their mind, and that additional expense was voted down. So, and apparently this was one of the first times in living memory that a member of any council had actually appeared and spoken at the school board meeting. So we've also had meetings with them to discuss possible location of school board services in Oakbank, and we are, I would hope, we would want to continue over the next 4 years a productive relationship with the board, back and forth, an exchange of views and opinions, and with the view of working cooperatively on providing services to youth, opportunities for the community to use their space as and when available. Thank you.
Valerie, the school division.
Yes, we do that already. We have a great partnership with our Anola school. If they have a problem at their school, whether it's a fire alarm or something that they require everybody to be evacuated, they actually come here. They come here for the skating rink, and we go there when our programs don't have a ceiling tall enough to throw a baton. So yeah, by all means, having a good relationship with the school and with the children just lets them know how important this community club is for them, whether they're here or not. So if they're not involved in a program, they need to know, or they do know, that this is their safe haven where they can come and be welcomed and be part of the community. So no, relationships, or yes, with schools and community clubs and recreation and municipalities is really important. So we just need to keep working on that.
Thank you. The next question relates to daycare services and daycare centers. What are your views with respect to the role of council, if any, with respect to daycare in Springfield? And we'll hit the button. And Rick, you're first.
Okay, no pressure on being first on these things, eh? Well, actually, certainly there are daycare facilities that are supported by grants from council, nonprofit organizations like that assist in the community. And probably one of the most interesting and maybe significant developments, certainly in the Ward 3, has been the decision by council to turn over the running of the Pleasant View Lodge in the Cooks Creek area to Immaculate Conception Church. We had a request for proposals on this, And it was council's decision that the Immaculate Conception came up with the best proposal for the facility, which included expansion of the facility, provision of a daycare service, and as well, perhaps even the opportunity for a convenience store over time. It was this combination of things, including the daycare, that was uppermost in council's mind when we approved Immaculate Conception's bid for the property. So it is something that is needed, and council is supporting it and is looking for opportunities to provide additional opportunities.
Thank you. Anne, daycare.
Daycares in this day and age have become part of family life. And I think the council needs to support daycares, whether it's through grants or other initiatives. And I'm willing to explore other initiatives to support daycares in our communities.
Thank you. I think it's Les next to daycare.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure what the zoning requirements would be, but I believe that there would probably have to be some change in zoning. I've heard of voting in the past where people didn't want it in their backyard. So I would suggest that that council should support any initiative that there is out there, because there is such a great need. The provincial organization that governs the daycares, as far as how they are built, the access, the escape requirements through certain areas, windows, whatever, are all governed by the province and very carefully inspected, to my knowledge. So that's an important part of it. And also, yes, I would also support any grants that that council can give them to get them started. It seems like there's a real shortage of daycares, and that's something that we definitely need to fix.
Valerie, daycare.
Yeah, so the role of council with daycare centers, I mean, I know we already do support, or there is a lot of support through the Dugald Community Club and the daycare and the municipality. So they have like a shared space where the daycare can use the community club, and the community club then gives it to them for a lesser cost. And so then the community club gets funding from the council for the operating budget. So it seems like we're all really intermingled, and we can't do it without each other. So to have additional development, we would support it. I would hope council would see the benefit for schools. We have such a young community coming our way. It's amazing how everybody who's coming in are young families, and there's young children, and that's why we work so hard to make this community club what it is today. And instead of losing it completely, our goal or our plan or our wish was to have the daycare here and an attached multi-use facility, but we couldn't get the funding and we couldn't get enough support to do that. So yeah, you know, I would even think that if we dabble in that thought of that recreational center that could be multi-use and multi-facility and multi-purpose, maybe we'd want to consider having that daycare or the access to it at a location that everybody could be involved with it. If you're driving by from Manola and you're on your way to the city, then why not have a daycare in that community club or that rec center? And then you got the space to use, and that was the whole idea, is that a daycare could be here, the multi-use facility next door, they'd run over, use this, and it would just be a win-win situation for everybody. So yes, I think council should support it. They could offer financing, they can offer grants and different things that we go to show our support.
Thank you. Next question, also from the floor. What do you see as the role for the Springfield Police for the future? Hit the button. Rick, you got to go first again.
Thanks, Lyndon.
It's the app. What can I say?
Yeah. This is a very important question for our community. RCMP staffing levels are down across Canada. That's reflected in the Oakbank Beausejour detachment, where there are supposed to be 17 officers. At any given time, there's probably 11 or 12. and several of them are either are basically positions that have been transferred to a green or a green zone or a very relatively low crime rate area. This is Oakbank Beausejour detachment, and you end up with officers perhaps with PTSD or other conditions requiring them to be on desk duty, being relocated to this detachment, where the able-bodied officers are sent to the yellow or the red zones in areas where there's imminent threat to public life. Some of our unfortunate northern communities, for example. So when it came down to with all these redeployments for these purposes and the chronic lack of staffing across Canada exacerbating that situation, when the staff sergeant in the Oakbank detachment was asked, well, so how many active staff are there right now? And he said, besides me, the answer was one. One officer daytime from here to Beausejour. So that sort of emphasizes the need for Springfield to focus on its one of the very few opportunities for a municipal police service in Manitoba. We have that opportunity. We have a very dynamic and innovative chief of police right now, who is putting as many staff on the ground as possible. Probably, it has been the first time I have ever experienced being out on our gravel roads in Ward 3 and having a police officer pass me was after our new police chief was installed just a couple of weeks ago, when I was out campaigning, banging in a sign after dark. So they're patrolling in our areas after dark just because they feel that they recognize that a police presence is something that we require. This is even more important when you consider that although the province staffs the RCMP detachment in our area at rural levels, we have urban areas, and in fact, the latest statistics that I've read on this show that there is up to 40% in Manitoba more prevalence of crime in rural areas than there is in urban areas, further indicating the very real need for the Springfield Police Service and their expanded role. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie, the police.
We don't need them. No, of course. Again, that was another thing that was brought to my attention. I cannot believe how many residences are asking for police to see them. They're feeling that we're just not seeing them anymore. We don't see them out in Anola. They're not around town, which is, I guess, the flip side to the Facebook and the media, where they're saying, oh my God, there was a cop in town. But me personally, I feel we need them. The residences all along in town of Anola, they are begging for policing. They need somebody there. They say that nobody is abiding by the rules of the road and the speed restrictions within the town. So the sooner we can get them in place and get them on a plan would be fantastic with us.
And you're up next, the police.
Thank you. The Springfield Police is a secondary police force in this municipality. The RCMP is the primary police force. When I was on the police board, there was much public consultation as to the role of the Springfield Police. In short, what I heard was they wanted policing, they wanted safety, and they wanted bylaw enforcement. In order to do their jobs effectively and safely, the employees need the proper equipment and the proper training to do their jobs. Going door to door, I heard this again, traffic safety. The council purpose is not to interfere with the police operations. That is up to the chief of police to operate and manage the police force how she sees fit. I would love to see the Springfield Police Force expand and to provide safety for our residents through traffic safety and bylaw enforcement. Do we need to hire a bylaw enforcement officer just to do that and be under the command of the chief of police? It's a possibility. We need to look outside the box, outside resources, to see how we can run, how the police chief can run the service effectively and efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. The police.
First of all, the police, the municipal police, are equally capable of handling any crime along with the RCMP or instead of the RCMP. Currently, we have one police chief, we have 2 temporary officers, and we have 1 administrative person. The temporary officers and the administrative person are only temporary because there isn't the funding there to allow for more. And as I said earlier, I support more funding for the police because I'd like to see more boots on the road. As Ann mentioned, there's also a possibility that we need a bylaw officer there. During my out knocking on doors, I've run into 3 different cases where there's dangerous dogs in the community causing a threat to people, causing people to not be able to enjoy their property. In some cases, in one case, there was a person whose wife was afraid to go outside of their house into their own yard because of a dangerous dog. And those situations were not being taken care of. The people had reported it several times and nothing was done. And the reason is because there isn't the amount of people available to look after that.
Thank you. The next question relates to council expenditures in travel, going to things like conferences, and what are your views in regarding councillors having 100% medical coverage for serving on council? And Valerie, you're first.
I love it. Please vote me in. Sorry, I mean, I don't know. That would be great. Coverage, I don't know about this, and if I find out about it, I guess we'll look into it. I didn't know there was 100% medical coverage, and I don't know what that is. The expenditures in conferences, yes, that has riled up so many people, and those last 2 articles were quite something that we had in the paper in reference to the councillors and their big expenditures that they had put in, and everybody's throwing around this whole same idea of what has to be done or isn't done or whatever. All I can say is that I can only comment on it when I get a chance to read the Municipal Act in reference to what councillors are allowed or not allowed to put expenditures in for. So yes, those numbers were like twice the amount of what I think is a flat income that you're supposed to be making as a counselor, and it was first, I guess, reported that it was almost 2 or 3 times the amount of what it was, and then they retracted that and said, oh no, we forgot to take these expenses off, and it didn't seem so bad. So my personal opinion is, yeah, like we've all said it, and we've said it, you know, people said it the other night before, we don't all have to go. We don't all have to go to the same conference, but you know, other things are done. Whether you partner up and you stay in one room and you share expenses, and there's things you can do. So I'm not going to just inadvertently scream, yes, that's it. No, you cannot go. We can take turns. We can go 1 year, and then the next 2 can go the next year, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to reduce expenditures, and whether we all travel in one place or not. And I know it's been brought to the attention that if you're voted in and you're the furthest away, then you're going to have the most mileage costs, or, you know, versus somebody who lives down the street and just walks over to the municipal building. Yeah, we need to review it. We need to look at it. We need to see what's going on. And I think once we read the Municipal Act and find out what is available for us to claim and what isn't, is something we need to do as a team.
Thank you. Anne. expenditures and health coverage for councillors.
Okay, thank you. I think I've spoken to about the, council expenditures that we can use policies and bylaws to curtail the expenses going to conferences. There's also the teleconferences and other technology that we can look at. And sending two councillors or to a conference and do a formal report back and using that information to see what we, if anything, we want to implement to improve our municipality. In regards to the 100% medical coverage, the last time I got 100% medical coverage was when I was employed with the RCMP way back in the 80s and 90s, and the armed forces got the same. At that time and still today, I have no knowledge of that. I can safely say that I don't want it because I already have medical coverage and my husband has me as a dependent. Okay, it took him 6 months in his new job to get me on, but he finally put me on as a dependent. So, like I said, I've never heard of that, and I would not have it. Next.
Rick, please speak
You got
to
100%
council
coverage?
expenditures and medical coverage.
Right. The 100% medical coverage is an interesting statement. What it is a Blue Cross program that was proposed. It's the same one that staff are on, and we were offered the opportunity to participate in it, and certainly I accepted that. If there's any kind of an issue with that, and we need to go back to and revisit that, I have no problem whatsoever in doing that. And if we're equivalent to staff, or we're equivalent to other municipalities, of a similar size, etc., I have no problem in reviewing that. As far as the expenses and remuneration for councillors, it is a complete mixed bag all across the province. Some councils have minimum to zero sort of base salary or honorariums for councillors, but everything is additional. So if you go to council meetings, well, that's $25 an hour. If you go to any meeting on a committee you're appointed on, that's $25 or more an hour. In the RM here, we have a base salary, and anything that you go to in the RM, however many hours you spend, it is just part of that. If you're doing anything for the RM on RM hours, there's no additional hourly rates or charges or anything like that. You do get mileage, but it's all included in your base salary. For myself, I know that if I was paid, if I worked it out, I've kept all my hours spent on council time, and I've posted that on my monthly reports. That's available on the online. Certainly for the first 2 years, my average wage was $1 or so above minimum wage, working for council. And that will vary depending on how many council committees and boards you've been appointed to. If you were appointed to virtually none, and you're only worried about your hourly rate for going to council meetings, you're probably being paid about $60 to $70 an hour. So it really does matter as to how much you're doing, how much you're putting into the job on behalf of the RM and behalf of your councillors in that way. Opportunities, I have taken up many opportunities for reducing costs, taking rides, Not going to, if I go to conferences, I go for the minimum amount of time, and nobody flies first class. Yeah, it's guaranteed. It's all economy airfares. And the air miles go back to the municipality so that they can be used for staff if they're going on training or require any kind of activities like that. So there are a lot of economies already in place. I'm always looking for more economies. I think that there are some fundraising meetings that we go to that should be on the councillor's own nickel. I have done that myself and not charged for them, and I have certainly supported and advocated that those kinds of things are not part of our duties as councillor. Thank you.
Les, please speak to council expenses and medical coverage.
Well, I've already given my views as far as expenses and going to various conferences and that kind of thing. I think that certainly expenses can be reduced by sending less than a full contingent of people. As far as the expenses for mileage is concerned, in going door to door, I've heard various people say to me, well, I don't get expenses when I go to work, why should the councillors get that? And my response to that has been, well, if the councillors were getting $80,000 a year, they probably wouldn't want to get expenses either. So that's one of the few areas where they do get a little bit of income from the mileage that they put on. And part of their job is driving around different areas of the municipality to see what's there. So I understand the need for expenses being paid for mileage because of the wage is so low. And as far as health care is concerned, probably most people on jobs have access to health care, and this is just another job. So I think probably health care should be available should councillors want to opt into it.
Okay, my next question is going to combine a couple of questions. So the general theme here is, please speak to the interrelationship between the needs of the various wards and how you view your role with respect to council, given that you represent one ward as opposed to another ward's interests. And in particular, there's a couple of questions here regarding what would be your priorities for your particular ward. And the other one is, what about Oak Bank as its own LUD is the acronym I have here. I don't know if it's the correct one, but I suspect it's an acronym that refers to having their own government area rather than being a ward, having them set up independently. So generally speak to wards' different interests, how you deal with that as the council, and what you see as your ward's particular needs, and if there's another solution for the heavily populated area in Oak Bank. And I'll give you 4 minutes for that one because it's really 3 questions in one. So the first person up for that is Valerie.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm still working on the question. Okay, so let's talk about my ward. My ward. So Ward 4, my passion and glory, that's for sure. Ward 4 means everything to me. What I have seen, yes, I think I'm getting the general gist of the question, because when I first received questions from the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, they wanted us, and even with these, to address the question that it incorporates the entire municipality, not just my ward. So I honestly could not comprehend that. I kind of went, well, what the are you talking about? I am running in Ward 4. My concerns are Ward 4. And I do understand that as soon as I am elected in as a councillor, that my concern is for the entire municipality. I'm not dumb that way. I get it. But truly, I will fight for and I will strive for anything that concerns Ward 4. So Ward 4, they are desperately seeking a grocery store. some business development. They need something in its place so that we're not running to the city or the little gas stations now trying to bring in the eggs and anything that you can freeze, because there is no french fries and bacon in this town because you can't get it. There's no store. So basic necessities of life seems to be a big concern for Ward 4, roads, infrastructure, maintenance thereof, snow removal, of course, to where there are individuals who require maybe special needs in that regard is really important as well. Versus, I guess, the entire municipality, I'm finding that, no, Oakbank's okay with grocery stores and things like the basic necessities of life. They're okay that they're starting to see some development with some apartment blocks, seniors, housing, independent living, things like that, and Dugald as well. Whereas our rural town, our Hazel Ridges, our Anola, we're looking more for something that gets these people. I mean, I think on our social media, we have at least once a week somebody's texting somebody else to say, hey, anybody got a place where I can stay? I want to rent in Anola. I want to stay in an apartment in Anola. I want a basement in Anola. So we need something for Anola, or this area, Ward 4, that offers, like I said, mature living, other people to stay, not to have to run off or go somewhere else, or literally not even be included anymore. So whereas Oakbank, being its own governing agency, or its own LUD or LID or whatever, I don't know if that would work. We're all together. We are one municipality. I know there was talk of this about 20 years ago or so, that the rumor had it, and I don't know if somebody had actually been doing it. Like, I don't know if somebody in a political arena was trying to separate Oakbank, or they were trying to join Transcona or something. I'm not sure. But as it stands now, I can't see Oakbank wanting to separate itself from us. Like, we are one. It would restrict them so remarkably, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because I know, although we have like an long-standing and ongoing concern that Oakbank gets more than Anola does, or more than Hazel Ridge does, or all these other different things, in the long run, we're all quite content. I have to say, I am so proud of Ward 4. Ward 4 had me in tears on every second day that I went out, because everybody had said the same thing. We just want to be. We just want the basic necessities of life. We love it the way it is. Whereas I think Oakbank is needing to have a lot more attentive, because there's a lot more people there. So it has to be that way. And I think we're all one, and we're all diverse, and we all need each other. I hope that touched on that.
Thank you. Anne, you're up next. I'll try to phrase the question again. It's about your particular ward's interests or needs, how you view your role as a councillor relative to ward and other wards' needs, and if you see a separate government role for Oakbank.
Okay, thank you. As a councillor, when you're voted in, you have to think of the big picture of the entire municipality. Having said that, I think part of the question was about priorities in the ward. My priorities that I spoke with previously about responsible economic development, building healthy communities, and collaboration still stands no matter where in the municipality. Those are my priorities. Those are my priorities for Ward 4. Those are my priorities for the rest of the municipality. In regards to Oakbank becoming an LUD, I'm not going to commit to an answer tonight, because I like to make informed decisions. I like to see the reasoning behind it, the pros and cons, before I make a decision. Having said that, and working in the community of Beausejour, when I was part of the Oakbank Beausejour detachment, the arm of Brokenhead, which was part of the policing area as well, has an LUD in Tyndall and Garson. It seems to work well for them. Would it work well here? I don't know. It's something that I'm willing to look at. If that's what the residents, and through public consultation, if that's what the residents would like the council to look at and are willing to participate in. And you have to remember that councillors just have the one vote. We all work together for the municipality. We're one vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Les, you're up next. And the question is needs of your particular ward, and then needs of your ward relative to other wards, and then LUD Oakbank.
Okay, so as far as the representing Ward 3 as opposed to representing the whole municipality, my understanding is that I am voted in by the constituents in Ward 3. After that, I'm representing the whole municipality. So I vote on a lot of different things that concern the whole municipality. The only part of my representation then from Ward 3 would be, is there something specific that Ward 3 needs that I got to bring to the whole council? The other thing about Ward 3 after I'm elected would be, if any of the constituents in Ward 3 have any issues, I would be the person that they would come to talk to about that issue. As far as the LUD is concerned of Oakbank, within the last few years, the province mandated that some municipalities actually amalgamate because they want to reduce the amount of administration that there is out there. So the possibility in my mind of the province saying, yeah, we'll allow amalgamation, or I'm sorry, we'll allow Oakbank to split off from the municipality, I would be really surprised if the province is willing to allow that.
Thank you. Rick, your ward versus other wards' interests, your role as a councillor, and Oakbank as an LUD.
Yeah, the responsibility of a councillor to his ward is to bring the specific nature of whatever it is, the situation regarding infrastructure or maintenance or any particular community needs to the council table on behalf of his residents. But once you are elected, you are there to work for the interests of the municipality overall. So it's and in practice, I have found over the last 4 years that there's been certainly in our council quite a willingness to listen to concerns from the other wards, because of course you don't have the specific information. You're relying on other councillors to bring that to the table, and so it is of interest to you as you're making your decisions. And what our council did was to, at the start of our term, to set up basically one or two basic criteria. How are we going to make decisions? And one was fiscal responsibility. Another was prioritize issues on the basis of health and safety. And with these few basic guidelines, we were able to achieve a wide range of consensus and broad agreement on the kinds of things that were best in the best interest of the municipality. So there is room both for advocacy of the particular needs of your ward, as well as to listen to the rest of the councillors and make a decision based on overall what's best for the RM on that basis. As far as an LUD for Oakbank goes, there are a number of LID, local improvement districts, and LUDs in Springfield. Some of them are for example, in Dougal, in Dougal and Oakbank, and they relate to provision of sewer and water services. And those are instruments that enable expenses to be charged and revenues to be raised by and for the people on those systems that have bought into that program. For example, there was an initiative to increase the size the number of people involved in the water LID in Oakbank, and they turned it down. The additional people turned it down. They opted not to join. And the LUD for Oakbank would depend on whether or not a certain percentage of the people within Oakbank were desirous of basically running their own affairs and being responsible for their own costs and levies. So that's completely up to Oakbank, and as an elected representative in the next term, if that came up, I would certainly want to assist Oakbank in going through the numbers and coming to that determination as far as what would suit them the best.
Thank you. The last question. It relates to processes and streamlining, I guess. The question is, do you see ways to allow citizens to get access to services and information in a more streamlined way and eliminate red tape? Do you see any opportunity to do that with respect to our current processes? Les, you're up first on that one. But we're going to go back to 3 minutes for that one.
Well, I've already spoken to different methods I can see for streamlining things, and I don't really have anything that comes to mind other than what I've spoken to already. Of course, communication is a massive thing these days, and so working with the internet, websites, Facebook, and of course the infamous rant and rave that's Oakbank's rant and rave. I think there's 2 of them going on right now. Those ones are some ways that information is being disseminated, but as far as municipality itself and the council sending out information, I've spoken to the fact that I'm prepared to have one afternoon a week for anybody to come and have a face-to-face conversation with me. I've mentioned the fact that I would send out an email to anybody that wants to be on the list in my in Ward 3 as far as what went on at the council meeting. So I'm sure that there's other efficiencies that can be made. I can't think of any at the moment.
Thank you. Rick, efficiency, streamlining, red tape.
Okay, well, I am very encouraged by the initiative that the council has undertaken over the past year to enter into this asset management program that I've been mentioning. Part of that program involves a online access for residents to the public works or waste and water agencies, and provides them with a direct means of requesting service. And the dispatch of that service, and the accounting for all the or any of the man hours required, equipment required, materials required, is all going to be computerized, and work orders generated very efficiently as part of that same online system. The dispatch of teams to repair or address any issues, all of that is going to be accounted for online. And that's going to greatly streamline and reduce the need for staff time in processing paper, certainly, and even in the passing around of these kinds of work orders and whatnot. And all these things can be right on a supervisor's screen first thing in the morning, because everything's all organized as far as time goes, and equipment required, so that it's very straightforward and very time-saving for our administration. So I see a lot of efficiencies coming forward as far as that goes.
Thank you. Anne, please speak to streamlining red tape efficiency in providing services.
Is this on? Excellent. Okay. Efficiency, streamlining, and red tape. I think a lot of it can do with communication. And I'm just going to quickly relate a personal experience that my husband Mark and I had with communication when we were trying to build a workshop. We got three different answers where we could build it on a property of the size of 78.5 acres. 3 answers. Really? Very frustrating experience that we went through. Whether it's a policy issue, whether it's a procedure issue, whether it's a lack of communication, those things I believe should be reviewed so that it's easier for residents to develop their own properties. Technology, with the internet now and technology, is that a way that the public can access services with the municipality? As long as you have internet connection in the rural areas, yeah. I think that is a great idea, and keeping in mind that we do still have to be fiscally responsible. Yeah, that's thank you.
Valerie? The issue is red tape, streamlining, and access to services.
Yeah, so I would say aligning the citizens to find out what they would like as well. There was that time where we were dealing with that question on whether the public should be involved when it comes to the process of implementing new and improved ideas. So maybe it would be an awesome idea or just a general kind of concept that we would send out a little, like a page or a flyer, or offer a email address, phone number that people could, who can't fill out the computer information, because even though my mom's 88 and she's on a computer, she does it wrong sometimes. But to have varying ways to have the public involved then would give us an idea of how they would want us to streamline a process. And it's so funny that you'd mentioned this at the meeting last night, because I'm there all the time. There was an issue with a gentleman who was very concerned with the red tape that he had to go through in reference to building a shed that had been in place but wasn't, and he had to put a new one up, but it didn't fall within the requirements and restrictions of that they are today, because it had been there 20 years ago, and all he wanted to do was keep his yard looking the same. Now, because he, falls under the province and it's a farm building and he doesn't have to take out a building permit, he has to take out a development permit. And let me tell you, this went on for at least 10, 15 minutes, and I don't know about the process. So, I was trying to say that I think we can streamline it. I think we can review policies and bylaws and things that are currently in place, update what hasn't been looked at for a long time. Because again, going to the meetings, we were, dealing with a noise bylaw that hadn't been looked at since, 1970, 80 or something. And so their biggest problem was a combine or something like that. Well, we have dirt bikes and all these other things all the time. So streamlining, I think, allows us to go to the public and say, if you at 10 years old or you at 80 years old, what would be the best way that you would want to communicate with us to get your fastest answer quickest? That's it.
We're now going to ask the candidates to make a closing statement. We're going to get 3 minutes to...
Thank you. As a member of the council, you must govern, work as a cohesive team, and be able to problem solve. I have the skill set for that. I've been doing it my work and life. I also have the education. I enjoy living here with my husband, Mark, and we are very fortunate to have what we have as a hobby farm and with our neighbors. I believe we deserve more in Springfield. Through opening our doors with responsible and balanced approach to development in agriculture, residence, and commercial, we can have a vibrant, healthy, age-friendly community with stable residential taxes that we can all be proud of our accomplishments. Through my door-to-door, and I have been around to the entire ward, the issues of drainage, we need to develop a plan. Affordable senior housing is a concern. We need to keep families together. We need to keep the residential taxes stable. responsible development, residential. We need a diverse recreational program. We need to be fiscally responsible through bylaws and policies. But in order to take these actions on, and me represent you as Ward 4 and as the entire municipality, you, the residents of Ward 4, need to take action. You need to take the first most important step in this whole process. You need to vote for me, Ann Wochuk.
So, a little bit about me. I have lived in Enola 24 years. For 14 of those years, I was actively involved in the Enola Community Club. As president of 13 of those years, during that time I was able to achieve incredible results in demolishing the old portion of the facility, renovating the newer portion, and construction of a new kitchen, bathrooms, and storage area. My passion and drive to establish a functional center where a community can ultimately provide recreation, family involvement, and community participation encompassing all aspects of health and living was achieved. During these years of service, I established many great friendships and contacts within members of all community clubs and within our entire municipality. I became involved with a joint task force that had been established to incorporate all community clubs to meet and discuss on ongoing concerns and issues affecting groups. During this time, we were able to address most concerns and issues and were successful in establishing an operating budget for all centers, which council to this day still supports. Attending council meetings on a regular basis has allowed me to acquire an understanding of the processes undertaken when a governing body tries to address all concerns of a community. Thus, it is not unfamiliar to me how politics, procedures, programs operate and benefit an entire municipality. Meeting with, contacting, and speaking with federal, provincial, and provincial representatives during this 10-year process to entirely fund the Enola Community Club as is gave me great in-depth knowledge of processes within the governments and agencies as well. I am confident and passionate about Springfield. I support general positive change for all. I feel we are all Springfield and we're all one ward, not one or two. I believe Springfield can envision a dynamic, powerful, and exciting future. Working with the City of Winnipeg for almost 34 years within various jobs and levels of authority has given me experience in facets of working in a professional environment. I am familiar with core competencies that are imperative to the overall governing of all individuals to achieve positive results through citizen and customer focus, respecting diversity, ethics and values, integrity and trust, and results orientation. This dealing will only benefit the citizens of Springfield if I am elected. I have been trained in teamwork workshops, was part of a joint task force committee to execute overall improvements to an entire department and all its sections within. I've attended many seminars and courses and feel I bring professionalism, balance, and leadership and goodwill to this team. Vote for me.
I'd like to thank and congratulate everyone for coming and participating in this democratic process. Also, I would like your indulgence while I tell you a bit more about my background. I remember many hours spent with my siblings making the 5.5-mile round trip back and forth to school in a cart behind a horse. This hands-on training I received handling horses led to a lifelong love of horses, and eventually led to me training my own horses. At one time, I owned a herd of 35 Appaloosas and quarter horses. When I was 10, I started to drive on a Minneapolis Moline tractor with a hand clutch. I graduated through bigger tractors, cars, grain trucks, to driving semis through the Rockies in the winter. I became a driving instructor and helped many teenagers right here in Springfield get their first license and become safe drivers. I learned to fly aircraft, then progressed to flight instructor. One of my jobs was officer in charge of the first class of 24 female students and cadets. In 6 weeks, all 24 women between the ages of 16 and 18 had their wings. I moved on to the more challenging task of flying a medevac plane in the north, bringing critically ill patients from north of the Arctic Circle to Winnipeg. I take great comfort in knowing many a life was saved because I became an aviator. I picked up a hammer as a child and was choked when my first construction job was straightening nails, while the adults got to actually build the new granary. I progressed from there through many and various building projects, constructing many houses along the way. I am now a certified building inspector. I have been a volunteer at the community level on multiple occasions. It feels like all my previous training has prepared me for the next step. I am applying for the job of councillor in Ward 3. Voting for me means you have my promise I will make every effort to exceed your expectations. Thanks for your indulgence.
Thanks. I count it as an honor and a privilege to have served Ward 3 as your representative over the last 4 years. Thank you. If the result of my efforts over the last term is a return to a municipal service, I would look forward to working with next council to find new and better ways of reducing costs, providing enhanced economic opportunities, services, and active living opportunities, improving tax fairness, keeping increases at or below inflation, and improving community relationships throughout the RM. My experience over the last term has shown that this is not a small undertaking, and my hat is off to all of us who offer their time and their talents to better their community. Thank you.
Let's give all these candidates a round of applause. As our thanks, because it's you, folks like you, who put yourself forward and put yourself in a position of some vulnerability running for office that our democratic process works. I want to thank all of you for your cooperation tonight in respectfully giving everybody an opportunity to speak, and then the candidates for being respectful to each other. And I'm going to turn it over to Brent Bellick, our host tonight, and I think he's got a few words for you.
Good. Again, thanks to the candidates for stepping up and doing a lot of jobs that a lot of us wouldn't choose to do. So good luck on your platforms you're running. And the audience, thanks very much for coming out on a tough night. Really appreciate seeing everybody come out tonight. It's one thing to sit at home and be a spectator and complain about what's going on versus coming out and getting informed. So on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and all our community partners, I'd like to thank you and congratulate everybody for coming out. It's one community, it's one RM, and I think we've all lived here a long time, so appreciate it. Just a reminder what's coming up tomorrow night. It's the Reeve Forum, the same thing. It's at the Springfield Collegiate, 6:30 to 9:30. I expect it's going to be rather well attended, so I would suggest you get there early. And then we've got the forums for candidate Ward 1 and 2 on Tuesday, October 9th. I've also been made aware, and correct me, somebody who's running if I'm wrong, but people can get out and place their votes now, correct? I don't know where the locations are, but okay, RM office 8:30 to 4:30 until the 19th. So my lovely wife in the back told me one time I was complaining, and she said, if you don't have the right, if you didn't vote, you have no right to complain about what's going on. So I encourage everybody to get out and exercise your democratic right. We've got a great choice of candidates here. We've got difficult decisions to make, but certainly they put their best foot forward, and I wish everybody the best and have a safe evening. Thank you.